My mother-in-law faked a cancer diagnosis to control my husband, so I exposed her lies. The hospital bracelet was still on her wrist when she announced her cancer diagnosis at Sunday dinner. My mother-in-law, Gloria, had always been a master manipulator. But this was a new low. She sat at the head of the table, surrounded by her 3 sons and their families, her eyes glistening with manufactured tears. My husband, Vincent, rushed to her side, promising to do anything, give anything, sacrifice anything to save her. I watched the performance unfold with a growing sense of unease. Something didn't add up. The diagnosis seemed too convenient, too perfectly timed. Over the next 3 years, Gloria's cancer became the center of our universe. It dictated our vacations, our finances, and our marriage. But I had never seen a single piece of medical evidence. When I started digging, I discovered the horrifying truth. Gloria had faked everything. She had forged medical documents, shaved her head, and manipulated her entire family into believing she was dying, and I had the proof to expose it all. I met Vincent when I was 26. A young graphic designer with dreams of making it big in the city. He was kind, thoughtful, and utterly devoted to his family. That was one of the things I loved most about him. He called his mother every Sunday, sent her flowers on her birthday, and visited her every holiday without fail. He was the kind of son every mother dreamed of having. When we started dating, I was thrilled to meet his family. I imagined Sunday dinners, holiday gatherings, and a warm, loving extended family. I was naive. Gloria was a widow who had raised 3 sons on her own after her husband passed away suddenly. She had sacrificed everything for her boys, working multiple jobs to keep them fed and clothed. She was a martyr in her own mind, a woman who had given up her youth and happiness for the sake of her children, and she never let them forget it. Every conversation was laced with guilt. Every request was framed as a sacrifice. Every disagreement was met with tears and accusations. Vincent and his brothers, Marcus and Julian, were trained from birth to cater to her every whim. She had raised them to be her protectors, her providers, her emotional support animals. I noticed the red flags early on. The way Gloria would call Vincent at all hours, crying about some minor inconvenience. The way she would guilt trip him for spending time with me instead of her. The way she would undermine my cooking, my career, my very existence. But I loved Vincent, and I convinced myself that I could handle her. I was young and optimistic. I thought love would conquer all. The first major conflict came when Vincent proposed. We were engaged for exactly 2 weeks before Gloria called him, sobbing, claiming she had a heart episode and needed him to come home immediately. He rushed to her house, canceling our engagement dinner plans. I sat alone at the restaurant, eating dinner by myself, while Vincent sat at his mother's bedside, holding her hand. When he returned the next morning, he was exhausted and apologetic. "She just misses me," he said. "She's afraid of losing me to you. I should have run then. I should have packed my bags and never looked back." But I loved Vincent, and I believed that marriage would change things. I believed that once we were a family, Gloria would eventually accept me. I was wrong. The wedding was a nightmare. Gloria insisted on planning every detail, from the flowers to the menu to the seating chart. She overrode my choices, dismissed my opinions, and treated me like a guest at my own wedding. I tried to compromise, tried to keep the peace, but every concession I made was met with more demands. Vincent was caught in the middle, trying to please both of us and failing miserably. Our wedding day was beautiful, but I remember feeling like I was performing in a play directed by Gloria. The cancer diagnosis came 3 years into our marriage. Vincent called me at work, his voice trembling. "It's my mother," he said. "She has cancer, ovarian cancer. The doctors say it's aggressive." I felt a knot form in my stomach, not because I was sad, but because I knew what was coming. Gloria was going to use this to control us, to manipulate us, to drain us of everything we had. And I was right. The first few months were chaos. Vincent spent every spare moment at his mother's house, taking her to appointments, cooking her meals, managing her medications. He drained our savings to pay for experimental treatments. He canceled our vacation plans, our date nights, our life together. I was left alone, neglected, and resentful. When I tried to express my feelings, Vincent accused me of being selfish. "She's dying," he would say. "How can you be so heartless?" I started noticing inconsistencies. Gloria's chemo appointments were always scheduled at times when I couldn't accompany her. She would emerge from her room looking pale and weak, but there were never any medical bills, never any insurance documents, never any evidence of treatment. When I asked about her doctors, she would change the subject. When I offered to drive her to appointments, she would refuse. Something was off. Then came the fall. Vincent was sitting in the living room, scrolling through his phone, when he received a text from his mother. "I need you to come over. I've had a terrible fall. I think I broke my hip." Vincent was out the door before I could say a word. He spent the night at her house, sleeping on her couch while I lay in bed alone. The next morning he called me. "She's in so much pain. he said. I'm going to stay with her for a few days. But Gloria never went to the hospital. Vincent mentioned that she had refused treatment, claiming she was too weak to endure surgery. I was suspicious. If she had truly broken her hip, she would have been in excruciating pain. She would have needed medical attention. Instead, she was at home, demanding Vincent's attention around the clock. When I finally saw her a week later, she was walking without a limp. She was perfectly fine. That was the moment I started investigating. I went through Vincent's phone while he was in the shower, looking for any evidence of Gloria's medical condition. I found emails, texts, and even a forged doctor's note. Gloria had been creating fake medical documents for years, using them to manipulate her sons into giving her money and attention. I was disgusted, but I didn't have enough evidence to confront her. I needed something concrete, something undeniable. I hired a private investigator. I found Gloria's real doctor, a general practitioner who had seen her for routine checkups but had never diagnosed her with cancer. I obtained her real medical records, which showed no evidence of cancer, no chemotherapy, no radiation, no surgery. It was all a lie. Gloria had faked everything. I didn't confront her immediately. I knew she would deny everything, twist the narrative, make me look like the villain. Instead, I waited. I collected more evidence. I recorded her conversations. I documented her lies. And I prepared for the moment when I would expose her to her entire family. The opportunity came at a family dinner. Gloria was hosting, as she always did. Her 3 sons and their families gathered around the table. She was in her element, playing the role of the brave cancer patient, stoically enduring her suffering. She talked about her treatments, her pain, her sacrifices. Vincent was fawning over her, refilling her water glass, rubbing her shoulders, treating her like a fragile queen. I sat in silence, watching the performance. And then, when the dinner was winding down, I spoke. Gloria, I said, my voice calm and clear, I think there's something you need to tell everyone. She looked at me, her eyes narrowing. What are you talking about? I'm talking about your cancer, I said. I have your real medical records. I have a statement from your doctor. You've never had cancer. You've been lying to everyone for years. The silence was deafening. Vincent looked at me, his face pale. Marcus and Julian stared at their mother, their expressions a mixture of confusion and anger. Gloria's face contorted into a mask of fury. How dare you? She screamed. How dare you accuse me of lying? I am dying. I have cancer. How can you be so cruel? I pulled out the documents from my bag. I have the evidence right here, I said. Your doctor's records, the lab results, the insurance claims, or rather the lack of them. You never had cancer, Gloria. You fabricated everything to control your sons. The room erupted. Vincent grabbed the documents, his hands trembling, reading them with a growing sense of horror. Marcus and Julian looked at their mother, their faces filled with betrayal. Gloria was crying now, real tears of rage and humiliation. You don't understand, she sobbed. I did it because I love you. I did it because I was afraid of losing you. That's not love, I said. That's manipulation. That's abuse. You've been destroying your sons' lives for your own selfish reasons, and it ends tonight. Vincent looked at me, his eyes filled with a complex mixture of emotions. Gratitude, shame, anger. I'm so sorry, he whispered. I believed her. I believed everything she said. I let her destroy our marriage. I took his hand. It's not your fault, I said. She's been manipulating you your entire life, but it stops now. Gloria was escorted out by her sons, her cries echoing through the house. The next day, Vincent changed the locks on her house and cut off all financial support. He went no contact, finally recognizing the toxicity of his mother's behavior. It was painful for him, a grief that he had to process, but it was also liberating. For the first time in his life, he was free. The aftermath of the dinner was chaos. Gloria didn't go quietly. She called every family member, every friend, every neighbor, telling them that I was a lying, vindictive daughter-in-law who had fabricated evidence to destroy her. She claimed that the medical records were forged, that I had bribed her doctor, that I was trying to steal her sons away from her. She was convincing, I'll give her that. She had been lying for so long that she had become a master of deception. Some relatives believed her, at least at first. But the evidence was undeniable. The doctor's statement, the lab results, the lack of insurance claims, it was all there, clear and irrefutable. Vincent was in shock for weeks. He had been raised to believe that his mother was a saint, a martyr who had sacrificed everything for him. To discover that she had been lying to him his entire life was devastating. He withdrew from me, from his work, from everything. He spent days sitting in the dark, staring at the wall, trying to process the betrayal. I gave him space, but I also made sure he knew I was there for him. I held him when he cried. I listened when he needed to talk. I didn't push him, but I didn't abandon him either. The most painful part was watching him grieve a mother who was still alive. Gloria was a ghost now, a figure from his past that he couldn't quite let go of. He would sometimes pick up the phone to call her, then put it down, his face twisted in pain. He had been trained from childhood to run to her whenever she needed him, and breaking that pattern was like breaking an addiction. I encouraged him to seek therapy, and he eventually agreed. His therapist helped him understand the cycle of manipulation, the guilt and obligation that had been ingrained in him since childhood. It was a long, hard road, but he was determined to heal. Marcus and Julian also cut Gloria off. They had been just as manipulated as Vincent, just as controlled. They started their own healing journeys, attending therapy and rebuilding their relationships with their partners. For the first time, the brothers were united, not in loyalty to their mother, but in their shared commitment to healing. They supported each other, something they had never been able to do before. Gloria, meanwhile, was spiraling. Without her sons to control, she had no purpose. She tried to manipulate other relatives, but the truth had spread too far. No one believed her anymore. She was alone, isolated, and bitter. She sent Vincent angry emails, blaming him for everything, accusing him of abandoning her. He didn't respond. He had finally learned that engaging with her was pointless. Then came the final blow. Vincent received a letter from Gloria's neighbor, an elderly woman who had been friends with her for years. The neighbor had discovered that Gloria had been stealing from her, taking cash and valuables while pretending to be a friend. The neighbor was pressing charges. Gloria was facing criminal prosecution. Vincent felt a complicated mix of emotions: anger at her betrayal, sadness for the woman she had become, relief that he was no longer responsible for her. I stood by Vincent through it all. Our marriage had been tested, almost broken by Gloria's manipulation, but we emerged stronger on the other side. Vincent learned to prioritize our relationship, to set boundaries, to trust his own judgment. He apologized for the years he had neglected me, for the sacrifices I had made. He promised to never let anyone come between us again, and I believed him. We went to couples therapy, rebuilding our trust and communication. We went on vacations, reconnecting as a couple. We started our own family, having a daughter we named Rose after my grandmother. Vincent was a wonderful father, attentive and loving. He was determined to give Rose the childhood he never had, a childhood free from guilt and manipulation. Gloria was convicted of fraud and theft and sentenced to 2 years in prison. Vincent visited her once, a final farewell. He told her that he loved her, but that he couldn't be part of her life anymore. He forgave her, not for her sake, but for his own. He needed to let go of the anger to move forward. Gloria cried, begged, pleaded, but Vincent held firm. He walked out of that prison and never looked back. 2 years later, Gloria was released. She had no family to return to, no friends to support her. She moved into a small apartment, living on a modest pension. Vincent sent her a monthly allowance, a gesture of compassion rather than obligation. He didn't visit. He didn't call. He had moved on. I think about Gloria sometimes. I don't feel anger anymore, just a quiet pity. She had spent her entire life manipulating others because she was afraid of being alone. In the end, her fear became a self-fulfilling prophecy. She lost everything she had tried so desperately to keep. I have no regrets about exposing her lies. It was the right thing to do, not just for me, but for Vincent and his brothers. They deserve to know the truth. They deserve to be free from her control. And I am proud of the role I played in their liberation. Today, Vincent and I are stronger than ever. We have built a life that is entirely our own, free from interference and manipulation. We have a beautiful daughter, a comfortable home, and a deep, abiding love for each other. We have learned to communicate, to trust, and to prioritize our relationship above all else. It wasn't easy, but it was worth it. Rose is 5 now, a bright, curious child who loves her father more than anything in the world. Vincent is determined to raise her to be independent, confident, and unafraid to speak her mind. He reads to her every night, takes her to the park every weekend, and tells her every single day that she is loved. He is the father I always knew he could be, the father he was denied by his own mother. I look at my family and feel a sense of peace. We have been through so much, but we have emerged stronger on the other side. Gloria's lies nearly destroyed us, but they also made us stronger. We learned to recognize manipulation, to set boundaries, and to fight for what matters. And what matters is each other. I still receive occasional updates about Gloria. She is living alone, her health declining. I don't feel glee at her suffering. I don't feel anything, really. She is a ghost from our past, a lesson we learned the hard way. I hope she finds peace, even if she doesn't deserve it. But I don't wish her ill. I simply don't think about her. The lesson I have learned is that love should not come with conditions. It should not be used as a weapon or a tool of control. Real love is freeing, not imprisoning. Real love is honest, not deceptive. Real love is kind, not manipulative. And I am grateful to have found that kind of love with Vincent. As I watch him play with Rose in the backyard, their laughter floating through the open window, I feel a warmth spread through my chest. This is what family should look like. This is what love should feel like, and I am so grateful to be a part of it. The road to healing was long and painful, but we made it. We climbed out of the darkness and into the light. We refused to be controlled by a manipulative woman who had tried to destroy us, and we emerged stronger, wiser, and more united than ever. I look back on the night of the dinner, the moment I exposed Gloria's lies, and I feel no regret. I did what I had to do. I protected my family. I stood up for the truth, and I am proud of the woman I became. A woman who refused to be silent. A woman who refused to be controlled. A woman who fought for her marriage and won.